Hello and welcome, everybody, to today's episode of the Angelic Footprints podcast. I have a special guest with me today. Her name is Brenda Winkle. She is an energetic leadership guide, intuitive channel, and somatic mentor, helping visionary professionals, founders, and entrepreneurs reclaim their energy, trust their inner knowing, and lead with clarity, soul, and ease. She blends decades of experience in leadership and education with her intuitive gifts, energy healing, and trauma informed somatic work. She is known for her calm authority, psychic precision, and nurturing presence. She creates high frequency spaces for deep calibration. Brenda, it is such a pleasure to have you on the show today. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Hi, Dagmar. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. I can just feel the energy building into this conversation. And yeah, I think you pretty much summed it up in the bio. The something fun is I was just in your part of the world just last week. I was spending time in London and absolutely fell in love.
Yeah, London is amazing. I love London too. And every time I go there, it's like I find something new or see something new. It's like the city that never stops giving. So yes, so you'll have to definitely come back. Thank you, Brenda. You've had some angelic experiences, and I know our listeners are going to be really looking forward to hearing about those. Please, would you like to share some?
I would love to. So I've always had this knowing without having been taught that I had connection with angels. And I didn't always understand what it was going to look like or feel like, but I've had several experiences that were mystical in nature where it wasn't something I was asking for, but that I know angels were absolutely by my side. And one of those instances was when I was recovering from major surgery. And when I say recovering, I mean just out of the operating room. And so I was brought into a hospital room that had another person in the room, and we were separated by a fabric curtain. And there was a lot of chaos on that side of the room. I was in that kind of twilight sleep space where I was awake, I was conscious, and yet I was not feeling myself. I was still not feeling very well. And the chaos began to scare me on the other side. I could tell that people were really anxious and really afraid. And suddenly I looked over and there was a man dressed in a bomber jacket leaning as though it were a wall on the curtain. And so I knew right away there was something different about this man, and I blinked my eyes several times trying to make sure it wasn't like a medication induced kind of situation. And the man stepped toward me, but he still leaned on the curtain wall. He was so kind. And he just kept talking to me. He was telling me I was okay. He was telling me that the person on the other side of the curtain was ultimately okay and that his family was scared and sad, but that they were also okay because there was an angel on their side of the curtain as well. And in the chaos, the person on the other side of the curtain eventually passed. And the angel stayed with me until I was able to fall asleep again. And it was so surreal because I could feel loved, I could feel protected, I felt supported, and I'm a very strong empath and have been my whole life. But I was not taking on any of the sadness or grief from the other people. And I knew because of that, that there was something special and unique that was happening for me in that moment. And when I woke again, I asked everyone I could talk to where that man had gone,
Mm.
and no one had seen him. No one knew he had been there.
Oh, wow. What an amazing story. And I bet you felt comforted the whole time of his presence there, right?
Absolutely. I felt so comforted and supported. And, it was interesting because I had perceived myself to be in pretty significant pain. And
Mm.
when he began to talk to me, I noticed that the pain was dissipating. It was wonderful. It was such a gift.
Nice, nice. So that's one experience that you shared with me, and what a beautiful experience. It's almost like an introduction to, this beautiful world. Have you got some more that you would like to share, please, Brenda?
Oh, I do. I have many more, but one of the biggest experiences that I ever had was the first time that I hosted the archangels. And at the time, I didn't quite understand what that would entail. I knew that I was given a unique opportunity that a lot of people don't have. And it was the first time I'd ever heard of anyone hosting the archangels. And I thought, well, I know that I love angels and I know that I want to work with angels. So I'm going to give this a try. And so I said a prayer inviting them into my home. I lit a candle and I had followed directions the way that the person who had coached me through asked me to do by writing a letter of intent, something that I wished for myself, something that I wished for my family, something that I wished for the earth, and then placed an apple on top of that. And then I was to open the door. And my daughter was young at the time. She was probably 8 or 9. And I was intent on doing everything the way that I had been instructed. And I was
Right.
totally open to the experience, not having any idea what that would be. The moment I opened the door, there was like a wind that hit me, blew my hair back. It was so peaceful, but it also gave me chill bumps all over my body. My daughter also felt it, and she was like, "What was that?" And you could just feel this big, beautiful, loving presence. And my life has never been the same. And I've hosted them 2 more times since that. In fact, just recently, about 3 weeks ago, I hosted them again. And, the angels are always with us if we're willing to ask for their support, for their presence. They're always ready to help. And it was such a beautiful reminder because they felt so much more familiar to me this time. Like, "Oh, you've been with me since the very first time I hosted you." And that was really reassuring.
So I have a couple of questions around this experience. When you say you've hosted the archangels, do you know who was there? Like, did you get a sense, or did they tell you who of the archangels was there?
There were several of them: Archangel Gabriel, Archangel Michael, Archangel Uriel, Archangel Jophiel, Archangel Raphael, and I believe there was one more, but the name is not coming through for me right now.
That's okay. And were there any special messages, like when you hosted this experience? Because it sounds fantastic. And to all the listeners, if you want to have an experience that like this, then please have a listen to what Brenda did, and maybe even get in touch with Brenda to guide you through this process. But was there something significant? You said you hosted them. What came out of this experience for you besides having them there? Were there special messages that came through? Was there a message maybe for the world, or the community, or just for you? I'm very curious.
Yes, there were absolutely messages, but the bigger gift was I understood how the angels were communicating with me because it felt familiar. Only it was so much more concentrated with so many of them in that space in that time that it gave me practice in knowing when angels are speaking to me so that I can hear their messages. And so the way that they came through for me, and this might be different for everybody, but the way it
Mhm.
came through for me was very gentle. I mean, very gentle, like a guide, a suggestion, a whisper. And so it might be just like, light that candle, or you really need to go sleep, or you should call that person. And it was fascinating to me because I expected there to be big, like, platitude types of messages like, "You are destined for XYZ." but the messages were so simple and loving that I was realizing they're with us all the time. And sometimes, I think there are big messages when we're getting ready to enter a big transitional period in our lives. But so
Yeah.
many times it's mostly how to tune better into listening to them and listening to our own selves and listening to the needs of our bodies so that we can tune the instrument of our bodies to clean the channel so we can get the messages from our angels.
Brenda, that is a fabulous story. And I really invite you, the listeners, to take part in something like that, whether you're inviting in your angels, the archangels, your guides, or whoever that is for you. Absolutely. And you're right, Brenda. It is about, really honing that energy so that we can be more receptive to the messages as they come. I really, really love that. Thank you for sharing that with us. Brenda, how would you say working with the angels and archangels has influenced you?
I have learned to trust so much more deeply than I've ever trusted before. I feel like before I discovered the angels' presence in my life in the way that I now perceive them, I felt like I was doing it all on my own. I felt like I had a connection to source and I would definitely reach out and try to communicate with source, but I felt so alone. And I felt like I had to do it all by myself. And now I don't feel that way. I feel connected and supported. Even if I'm physically alone, I know I'm not actually alone. And in those moments when I'm recognizing that I'm connected, I find myself braver and more loving and more able to show up in the way I really want to show up in my life, in my relationships.
Oh, Brenda, thank you. What a beautiful way of living your life, of having that connection. It's almost like knowing that you've got your best friends beside you every step of the way. And you actually remind me of my own experience. And I don't think I've shared this with anyone. And I happened to be in a workshop, and the lady who was running the workshop, it was an angel workshop, of course it was. And she was talking to us and she had us sitting down, and at some point in the story that she was telling, I could feel the emotion. I had tears streaming down my face. And it wasn't one thing that she said, and I get the goosebumps as I say that. It wasn't one thing that she was talking about that really hit home for me. It was that beautiful realization, I'm not alone.
Right.
And it was that feeling of remembering, "Oh my goodness, I've known this all along," and it was this awakening of remembering. So for all of you, listening to this podcast, to have that experience, I really wish that for everybody to have that remembering because, when we're children, it's kind of part of us, and then we grow up and we forget about that. We go to school and get a life, and this beautiful connection is there for each and every one of us. Brenda, thank you for sharing. Brenda, would you like to tell us a little bit about a special offer that you have, something that our listeners can participate in that will help them with this connection?
Absolutely. So I feel like one of my special gifts is I live a joy filled life and my life has not been easy. There was a lot of things in my life up until about age 35 that were extraordinarily difficult, but I was always able to find joy. And I discovered that I have a gift for helping other people discover their joy and lean into their purpose because with joy, everything else becomes clear. And so that is why my brand, my podcast is called Your Yes Filled Life. It's all about like living that joyful life. So I would love to invite your listeners to begin to track the things in their lives that are bringing them joy. And I have a free gift. It's called an energy audit. And it's just a way to start to pay attention and notice where are the things in your life that are really lighting you up and bringing you joy, and where are there things in your life where you're spending time, energy, bandwidth, and money that aren't lighting you up? so that you can begin to create an awareness and a consciousness around how you are spending your time, energy, money, and bandwidth. And so I'd love to offer that to your listeners. It's free on the website at brendawinkle.com/audit, AUDIT.
Oh, Brenda, I think we all need a little bit of that because how many times does our life just get caught up with busyness and we do things that we don't necessarily want to do that we have to do? And this energy audit, what did you say? Time, energy, money, and bandwidth. Ah,
Mhm.
amazing how you've put that together. I do hope for our listeners that you all get in touch with Brenda's website and check out the energy audit and see where you are putting your energy. Brenda, such a wonderful gift. Thank you for bringing that to everybody. Brenda, are there any last thoughts that you would like to bring forward before we finish up?
I would love to invite listeners, if they're feeling alone, if they're feeling disconnected, to turn to appreciation and to use the physical action and action of appreciating things in their day, in their life. They can be very, very simple. It could be a pen on your desk that you absolutely love. It could be the peach that you had for breakfast. It doesn't have to be complex, but there's something magical about finding appreciation that unlocks your consciousness so that you can actually feel, hear, see, and sense you are not alone. It'll really position you so that you can get the angel messages, so that you can feel their presence. And you'll also find yourself more able to show up for the relationships in the physical form. You'll feel them in a different way if you are learning to use appreciation as a vehicle.
Oh, thank you for that message. Appreciation. And again, it helps us balance our life a little bit, doesn't it? And it's a way of making that lovely connection. Brenda, how can listeners get in touch with you if they want to either work with you or talk to you? Could you share that with us, please?
Absolutely. So my website is brendawinkle.com, invitation to come check it out. And there's lots of free goodies there. And you can access the podcast and ask questions. And then if you want to play around on social media, I'm active on Instagram and Facebook primarily. And it's just my name, Brenda Winkle.
Brenda, awesome. Thank you so much for your beautiful experiences that you've shared with us today and the beautiful messages and the gifts that you've brought to the show. I really appreciate you and I really appreciate you being here today. For all of our listeners, if you found this episode valuable, please share information about the show with 3 people who you believe would find it beneficial. If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a 5-star review on the platform where you are listening. Until the next episode, blessings, and may your life be filled with hope and inspiration.